recording. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Chief?
All right. So welcome everybody for our liaison meetings. We had a couple changes since our first budget meeting through Board of Selectmen. So I want to highlight those. Let me just pull up I do have PowerPoint there, and we could quickly go through a couple of the points. So everyone sees the PowerPoint?
Yep.
All right. So our goals, objectives, just to quickly what we're working on, or what we completed in 24. So we got some stuff in service. Still, we started national standards, and our new records management system went in place, which I've talked about in the past. And just give a yell if you want me to slow down or stop anywhere. In progress, we're still trying to work with the other agencies to do our rescue task force capabilities. So that's actually partially happening next month, which is good. We're still working on pre-plan in the commercial district. So our members are out on a regular basis to do that. That's a ISO requirement, which you may have saw. We went up to or went down technically to a 3.3Y, which affects the insurance rates to homeowners and commercial insurance. So that's why pre-planning is so important. That's a big part of that decrease in the rating.
In this case, a decrease is
It's
a
good.
thing.
Yes, that decrease is good. I'm still trying to take advantage of grant funding opportunities, so that's still in progress. And there's our goals for 25. We're still working on our national standards to see what we are, and this is really voluntarily right now, but see what we're meeting, and then we're going to start to evaluate where we want to go, and is it really doable for us, both personnel wise, cost wise, and so on. And big cancer push now through the National Fire Service and the state, especially. They passed some laws, so that's one of our goals and objectives. We're really taking a close look at our occupational cancer for firefighters. So that's kind of the goal for this year, doing a very deep dive into that. And as always, improving our water infrastructure and re-looking at our rescue capabilities after our unfortunate event at Silver Hill. So we're re-looking at what we can do with our level of staffing and our mutual aid partners. So those are our big goals for 25. So where are we now?
What happened at Silver Hill, just quickly?
Okay, so Silver Hill was a trench collapse. So a worker was they happen to be working on a fire protection line for one of their buildings, which unfortunately they can't shut it off. So they were doing an emergency repair. And what the worker was struck and trapped by dirt inside the hole, about 12 feet down, which is a very challenging rescue for any fire service. But for us, with lack of equipment and staffing, it was much more difficult, but we got him out in 15 minutes or so with the help of their contractors. So unfortunately, he did perish.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that was back. Unfortunately, it was right before Christmas, but that was yeah. So that's what happened, and there's no rescue team that would have been able to save the individual. It was internal injuries, probably immediately when it happened. So
yeah, and he was a contractor that was working on a fire trench line. Is that?
He was a contractor working on, yes, a sprinkler fire protection line to what they call main house, and their sprinkler system that protects the residents in there. So
wow.
they were trying to make an emergency repair.
But you guys would have been called in a situation like that. I mean, it's just a bit ironic that he was working on fire protection
Once I, yes, absolutely got
But if he
called
had been
in.
working on a foundation or just any construction site, you guys would have been there too.
Right. The hard part for us to swallow is like we were actually pulling up for fire watch during that. That's why the fire protection line, which was good for us being there so fast,
Yeah,
it didn't really make a difference based on the injuries.
right.
But we knew this already going in, that we're kind of limited on our equipment for an incident like that. But when we got on scene that fast, we were even more limited. So, so those are a couple things that we're looking at and how we can enhance some operational level stuff for those type of rescues.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with regard to the occupational hazards that you were referring to, the cancer exposure, what does that involve? Is it changing out equipment that has PFAS, for instance, or what
Yep, that's one thing we got to look at. That's probably more of a long-term goal, because even the manufacturers don't know how they're going to do that yet and still have safe fire gear. And you'll see a couple items we're looking to purchase capital. One's our exhaust system, and another one is our gear washer. So washing our gear more often. The increased amount of physicals that the firefighters get, and making sure we're screening for cancers. Another one in that, just complete respiratory protection. Continue to a lot of it is policy driven. It's not so much right now. There's not a lot of expense to it, but it's really just the policy and getting some of those things in place on when do we wear our gear. How long do we wear a gear for? How often are we washing it, inspecting it, and so on? So that's kind of the start of it. We're just scratching the surface right now on what we need to do for some of that. Exhaust system is one of the big ones.
I would have assumed after 9/11 and the building collapses down at the World Trade Center that there'd be sort of best practices, at least for firefighters on exposure to asbestos and other chemicals of that sort. Are there national standards for that, Chief?
Absolutely. Yep. A lot of that's in place when we're on scene. I think what most of the push with the cancer issue is more in the firehouse and non-firefighting activities. We have to relook at our policies. We're wearing our breathing apparatus. We're wearing our gear when there's a house fire or a car fire. We're doing what we need to do then. It's the question of, well, how long should we be in the gear, and how often should it be washed? Should it be washed after the car fire, which we might not have did as often, when we, did as a house fire, we would always wash our gear. So those are some operational things we're going to look at.
Thank you.
So. Good. So here's our current, this was our proposed administrative structure and span of control. The yellow is positions that are not currently filled. When I was hired in 2021, I was actually hired as the career assistant chief. So it was filled for about 3 months before Chief Hennessy left. And then we decided to let me settle in both as interim chief, and then when I got appointed as full-time career chief, we kept we half financed, we half budgeted for it last year and again in this year, and we made the decision to start to fill it after July of this year. We were starting to go through the process of looking for candidates, and we're in that process now. So this is where we were coming up into the Board of Selectmen meeting. And this is really what the org chart should look like with everything filled. Obviously, our challenge with our volunteer staff right now is we don't have the people with the years of experience yet to put them in there. And those are all voted positions, and they would get voted based on the level of training. They have to have certain training to get into those voted positions. So that's our current, that's what what we were operating at coming into this budget season, even though that careers position was not staffed. So just how it breaks out, we have an administrative assistant part-time. Our assistant chief of volunteers, we have about 26 volunteers. 50% of them are probation, so that just means they don't go interior yet. So we're working toward that with basic firefighting classes and so on. So that is an ongoing process. Our fire marshal's office continues it's staffed Monday through Friday. Fire Marshal Payne has 365 on-call responsibility. And he has 2 part-time inspectors that work about a total of 2.5 days a week. So that's our part-time overtime, or our part-time position line. The challenge with them is one of them is a fire marshal in another town. So when we need them to cover us sometimes for firework events and so on, that town has that going on also. So that's a challenge for us. And our other part-time inspector was a career firefighter. And, we would bump up against his regular schedule and he couldn't cover. He can't cover for Paul often to cover some of those events or come in for investigations. So what we were looking for the career assistant chief is to take some of those some of that burden off of Paul as 365, and we could kind of split some of those duties up a little bit. But under the career assistant chief, we would have had, we still have 24 career firefighters, obviously 24 365 coverage. They are arranged in 4 groups. So they work a 24-hour shift and have 3 days off. So they're on for 24, off for 72, and they come back for their next 24. Each shift is a captain, lieutenant, 4 firefighters, and so on. So there's always a 6-person minimum max shift. That's why, when we talk overtime, that is one of the major drivers for that. So any time somebody's off, that has to be filled, both for safety reasons and obviously for contract reasons. And just so disclosure on our staffing model going into 25, which this was the Board of Selectmen didn't seem to have a issue. We have retirements coming up in calendar year 25. So we need to start to train 2 new firefighters in the spring. So our salary line increased for these firefighters to start early so we could get them trained. And once our members retire in 25, they're ready to come on the line and take those positions on that minimum staffing for shift. So that's where, so we're actually going to be over for basically 6 months. One would start in the fall and the other one would start in the spring, just to get them into the academy.
So then next year, would you expect that the number would come back down then?
The number would go right back to 24 after the retirements, the pension plan that the career staff is in. They have retirement dates in place. So we know when they're leaving. One's leaving in August of 25 and the other one is October of 25. So based on the schedule of the fire academy classes, I would need to get one in the fall, one in the spring to make sure both of them are ready for those retirements in the summer of 25. And then it goes back to 24 on shift. These firefighters will probably would just stay on days before the retirements. And the challenge with the academy is, as I told the Board of Selectmen, being such a small department, I can't guarantee 2 spots in the academy in the spring. So if we start both of them in the spring of 25, there's not a guarantee I get both of them in, which means I'm running overtime until December for that, when that one person leaves. So that's my challenge. So these two positions, and being at the lowest rate, we can get them into their other classes too. But one would be a cost of 56,000 and the other one's 28,000 from data hire. That was the number that finance worked up for that amount of time. We would hire them, put them in the academy, and then have them on a day shift until the retirement happens. Any questions on, well, let me show you that the next slide is actually, if we don't fund the career assistant chief, that becomes my, that's my span of control, working with each of the shift captains, which for directly, and not having another layer of management there. So it increases my span of control. And the harder issue is, you know, I don't, to have them do projects, I only see them once every 4 days. So that's on shift, that's their issue. So you'll see an overtime increase on the next slide that Board of Finance recommended. Board of Selectmen, sorry. So the nuts and bolts of it, here's our operating budget. The 4732 there was my original request, and the in parentheses is what after Board of Selectmen it went down to. It was a 4.4% increase, $200,547. Obviously, contracted numbers
Hey,
that are
hey, Chief, just quick
Yep.
question. So what did the Board of Selectmen cut to get your?
they cut.
Yeah.
They cut the assistant chief's position. The full-time assistant chief was the major cut of it, but they, you know, brought down some, they brought down the employee fitness type reimbursement. So that got brought down from my original ask based on a little confusion, but it did bring it down to, you know, like 10,000. But the big decrease was the full-time position for the assistant chief.
And you're saying you can manage it without the assistant chief?
Well, let me finish this
Okay.
slide. I'll answer.
He has been, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know I have been. So this was what my ask was for.
Okay, got it.
So callback went up. These were the major drivers. There was increase in callback based on average. Employee fitness, there was a little confusion where it was coming out of, because it wasn't showing on my budget, but it was coming out of somewhere because I had X amount of firefighters asking for the reimbursement. Our training number actually went down, but it's still reasonably high, just because of the amount of time that the firefighters are contracted to take off. But I was able, if you remember from last year, we were doing online EMS training. We've since worked that out, that we're doing it on the while they're on shift now. So that is significantly, basically a $30,000 decrease in the training budget based on switching over to live training on shift. And apparatus emergency repair went up. Our equipment's aging, so that's why that went up 15%, basically $11,000. So where's the Board of Selectmen? Their recommendation is only a 2.79. It equals basically $126,000 decrease in my ask. They cut the assistant chief, but they added what's called an OT line. So this is, do I need them? Yes, there's a lot of things that, you know, I'm trying to have the fire officers do that are on shift. I don't see them but once every 4 days. So I need to have them come in and work administratively to counter some of the projects I'm not getting done. So that was between myself and the commission. It was like, okay, we're ready to hire that assistant chief now. And we started it in the late summer, fall. And that was, you know, because projects weren't getting done, I have trouble getting back and forth to getting information out of the officers because they're not here. They're great at calling back, but technically I'm supposed to be paying them every time I'm having them do something outside of the firehouse. So based on the work that they were doing and the work I need them to do, I estimated the number of hours at an average lieutenant's pay. So this could be a captain, a lieutenant, or a firefighter working on certain projects of $70,000 worth of overtime. The BOS recommended 50. They added a line in the most recent budget that's published of a recommended $50,000 overtime line to offset some of that work, and I can have the members come in and just do administrative, because you got to remember the captains, if you go back to that org chart, those officers are still responsible for the day-to-day operations. So if I'm having them do stuff on shift, it's taking away from them training.
Right.
It's taking away from the stuff that they're out pre-planning. So they're doing that on their 24 for X amount of hours. For them to be doing admin stuff now above and beyond that is really cutting into the their day and what
So
they
you're
get
paying
done.
overtime, so now it's gonna be done on overtime, you're saying, so it doesn't cut into their day?
That is the recommendation, the option B that BOS would like me to try. Come in, I can pay somebody, X amount of hours during the day to develop lesson plans, to work on apparatus and manage the fleet. Review some of those standards that we're working on. So that's kind of where we are right now. Now, what doesn't get done, and the hard part, again, I keep mentioning we're 24/7. I have nobody else at my level that can handle the HR stuff, because the union firefighters can't do some of that HR stuff. They obviously another level supervisor when I'm not available. So anytime I'm on vacation or at a meeting or something like that, I don't have that command presence in the firehouse now. So that was a nice thing, and our assistant chief on the volunteers helps out with that. When he's available. The biggest thing was the HR, the enforced discipline, all that stuff that I can't do when I'm not here. We can work on the budget functions, but that's one thing that, we're trying to bring them up to speed on. I'm trying to work with the officers and taking their little parts and work on the budget. And really just my representative when there's two things that I need to do. I can't be at a meeting that affects the community and the fire department out of town and be across the street for something else that's affecting us. So I have to prioritize that, and something gets lost there. Unfortunately, I'll compare it to PD, where the police chief could be across the street asking for something in a board of selectmen meeting, and one of his captain or his deputy, which are both staff positions, can be at two other places. They could be providing training and being at a police chief's meeting somewhere else. So something is always missing when I get those conflicting meetings especially on Tuesdays. So that's one of the big things. And anything else you wanted to add on that?
So wait, so how much was the cost of the career assistant chief position?
Say that again.
How much was the career assistant chief position cost that was cut out?
The salary was in for 121,000 in the on the salary scale. I don't know the HR does not give me the benefit package and what the add-on for the benefit is. So the salaried assistant chief was 120 on the sheet of our personnel.
I got you. So, but let's say it's 30%. So that's probably 150 plus, and they gave back 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, this sort of turns on its head what our business plan was a number of years ago, as we planned to hire an assistant chief for then Chief Hennessy. And part of that was based on, needless to say, the workload, as Albie has been describing it, and responsibilities across the entire fire service. So we have had this approved. We've had it, we even had a half year budgeted last year. And we had, when Chief Hennessy retired, we had agreed with the commission and with HR and with Chief Bassett, that we would give Chief Bassett time to ascertain the type of position he needed as an assistant chief and the type of person he would need to hire to fill that role. And we were in the process of executing that. And basically the Board of Selectmen said no. So that's in point blank, that's where we are.
Okay. Got it.
So that's basically, as far as operating, that's where we are, currently.
Is it something that you could live with for this 1 year, see how it goes, the OT, and then come back and saying this didn't really work out?
Well, frankly, we've been living with it for a while now. Could we live with it? I guess. I think Albie's probably underestimating at the 70,000 level, but it's.
Did you identify
so
someone?
Let's put it this
Yeah.
way. Let's put it this way. We're always talking about best practices around this town. This is not a best practice.
Got it.
This is the fire department. This is public safety, and it's the safety of our citizens and the property here, and the safety of our emergency personnel. So, I can pitch it to you any which way you want to hear it, but that's the fact of the matter, and that's where we are.
And
No,
what I mean,
Look,
ahead.
we're empathetic. I mean, I think safety is very important. We live in a town where we value what you do, what the EMS does, what the police does, and I think we value it all. I'm just curious, what was the rationale the BOS gave for cutting it out?
I honestly just it's a bad year for money. Is how I read it. Obviously, we didn't act on it fast, but with a lot of other stuff going on, it just keeps getting pushed back to the. It's one of those things that didn't get cleaned up yet on my desk. That was one of the things when we only had it budgeted for half a year, so we started late summer. And this is the second year was budgeted for half a year, because the year before we actually gave that salary up to another position based on the request of the first select person. So, I mean, it's really that we just started late. Had we started July 1 for a January 1 hire, I don't know if we'd have the same conversation, because it would have been
identify
someone in place.
Chief, did you identify someone that's a strong candidate, or did you not get that far yet?
No, we just got resumes in November. We were grading them, getting ready to do a true assessment center to see who was the strongest candidate based on the needs. And right now that's on hold. The assessment center was this month, and it's we had to put a hold to it, not knowing what was going on.
Done.
I'm curious, prior to the hiring of Chief Bassett as the assistant chief, did New Canaan ever have an assistant chief reporting to Chief Hennessy?
The volunteer assistant chief.
Okay.
Not a career position.
Okay.
That was I guess 2021 it was approved for that, but
Right.
FY22 budget, it should have been the first approval of it.
Thank you.
Tom and Bob, I remember them talking about this for a few years now. So
Yeah.
what they're saying is correct, that they've had it in the plan, and at some point they wanted it. So so I do remember that it is something you have brought up in the past.
And I mean, I can't, and I hate to, the things that, are still going to happen. Paul's the fire marshal, 365 coverage, we're there, and it scares us when we're not available. That's the hard part. And we're trying to get coverage from out of town. But this position was supposed to take a little off of Paul's plate too, the fire marshal, because we were going to look at an opportunity to send them to school. To have that same certification Paul has, which would really help with the fire marshal duties.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of a one that really spreads out. You don't know when those, I guess you could try to schedule inspections, but that's that is a full-time job. And you say we're splitting that with another town.
Right.
Town.
The inspections reasonably are easy. Our admin assistant, does a great job with that, works with our part-timers, works with Paul. But Paul gets those phone calls 24/7, 365, consultations. He can't go to dinner. And now, because we had a fire alarm at a restaurant downtown, our firefighters have to call him for a question. He can't ever have that night off, and he's doing a great job at it. But that's where one of the reasons we're trying to spread that. It's personally, it takes a toll on us when we know we want to help and make sure we're there for everybody, but you're never off duty. That's one of the biggest arguments that Jack Hennessy had, and definitely see that you're never off duty. Sometimes I can't respond, sometimes Paul can't respond, and it's you hope nothing happens.
Hi, guys, it's
Yeah.
Steph Jones. Can I put my 2 cents in there?
You want to sit?
No, I'm good, just for a minute. I would strongly hope that you guys would consider putting this back in, because I think the chief's been waiting for it. He needs it. And I think the Board of Selectmen is a bunch of new guys. Well, Steve's been on town council, but I don't think probably that Amy and Deanna understand the history of this issue. And so they saw it as, well, he hasn't had it before, we can get rid of it. I think you guys have, at least you, Michael, have seen the history of this, and we've been very nicely, very patiently waiting for many years now. And I think we're due this position. So that's just my 2 cents, and thank you for your time.
Thank you,
No,
Beth.
thank you, that. By the way, who's your assistant volunteer chief? Right
Russ
now?
Kimes.
Oh, he's still okay. No, he's a great guy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's helpful that he's a town employee, and I get him on a regular basis, but he could choose to step down from that position. They could vote him out, if the company could vote him out based on their bylaws. So, right now it's awesome having that position and having him in that position, but that can change any given.
Yeah, that would be a game changer if he were out. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because now I don't have the town guy that's helping. I got the person that's commuting to, maybe New York City that becomes the assistant chief. So then we lose them during the day, or her. So that's the operating.
Okay.
That's where we are.
So was there anything else, Chief, that on the operating, apart from that position, that you had to give up, or that you feel like you're lacking?
No, I think we were honest with some of the stuff, and we went, Deanna looked at averages, and I agreed, we might not have spent some of the stuff the way we probably could have, but everything otherwise operating's good. We got the increase where we needed it. Like I said, the aging fleet was the biggest thing. Employee fitness, like I said, we might go over on that, but they said there's money in the HR. So that's okay. We just weren't sure how to tackle that, based on everybody's allotted so much. It's whether they ask for it and get for reimbursement. But otherwise, I think we did decent on operating. We got an increase for Pub Ed, which is, an important target for us to keep increasing that. So it actually went up 100%. We went from 500 to 1,000, I believe, on that line. So that's a good start.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the staff vehicle that went with the assistant chief was taken out of capital right now also.
Yeah.
And that could be back added if the position comes in. So this is our capital expenditure. Again, the staff vehicle originally was 90, recalculated after I got numbers from the police department with our outfitting and the radio that would be needed. It drops us down to 80,000, which was removed. And then Paul and I and along with Tiger are going to relook at our water supply plan. And instead of, randomly looking at, hoping for something to pop up every year and asking for 10,000, we're going to relook at that and try to get a better strategic plan in place to really target somewhere we know we could put the water supply in, whether it's dry hydrant or cistern or additional, if Aquarian wanted to put more hydrants in somewhere, and see what the best bang for the buck is there.
What's the search maze? Sorry, I just
So search maze, I got a picture. So hang on one sec.
this.
The search maze is a prop for training. Again, there's a lot of things we have to do on an annual basis for training. And the search maze is a prop that we can set up in different configurations. It helps us with our primary search of residential occupancies. We can do hose movement through that prop. We could do some of our SCBA skills. For the last 2 years, we've been having the state SCBA trailer come down. So that was, I ended up splitting it with a couple departments, but it's usually about somewhere between a $1,500 and a $4,000 cost to bring that down every year, depending on which department I'm splitting it with. So this would be a long-term investment, and we could, multi times a year use it and use it for different
got room
functions.
to store that, obviously.
Yeah, and actually, once it breaks down, those panels, in a corner of the apparatus floor, we can, set it up, or we have a shed that we can to store that. So it doesn't have to stay set up. And eventually down the road, find a trailer from Parks and Recs that if we wanted to move it somewhere. So they design it so it sets up on an apparatus floor of a firehouse. So that's what it's set up for.
Got it. Thank
So
you.
that's just a training prop that a good thing. So just as far as numbers, PPEs on the 10-year replacement plan. Our radios, those are the individual radios that we issue to firefighters. So the volunteers, once they get certified as interior, they get radios. So that's adding on to the fleet of 2 of them. The exhaust system and the gear washer are part of that cancer reduction plan. The exhaust system's getting older, getting a lot of leaks, a lot of times that the hoses can't hook up to the apparatus. So we want to switch over to a magnetic one and start to change all the hoses over. So I can show you a picture of that also. So there's the gear washer. Right now, our gear washer only can do 1 set of gear at a time. So either firefighters are wearing their gear dirty longer, or the problem if they're not wearing their gear. So if a volunteer firefighter goes to a fire and they have to wait 2-3 days before they can get in the washer, they could technically be out of service, and I don't have them as a firefighter. The career staff gets a second set of gear, so that's a benefit. So they can switch into their other set, but the volunteers do not, and they're a lot of times out of service until that gear gets washed, especially now with the newer cancer protocols that they're really talking about breaking the gear down immediately after the event. So that's why we want to add that second washer. And there's the magnetic clip for the apparatus. So that is in the firehouse. That way the trucks don't start inside and put the contaminants all throughout the firehouse, which has been an issue in the fire service. Our current system is air driven. So it hooks on the apparatus with air, and we have a lot of failures in the airline. Our compressor, which is a major building component, that needs some work and stuff. So we're relying on a lot of other parts versus the magnet. Once we switch over, there's no moving parts to it. It's just the exhaust fan that gets maintenance every year on the system. And the search maze, talked about the staff vehicle. Tools and equipments are all small stuff. We're upgrading some of our technical rescue skills, the equipment rather in there. So that's getting done, and we're starting to we're still working on our our swift water cache and cold water rescue suits for our bodies of water in town. So those are things that are just on a replacement plan based on the years of service of a lot of equipment. So nothing really new. Those are all replacement items of current equipment. The water rescue suits for swift water are new because we have to get a couple different sizes, but otherwise
And-
everything else is replacement.
The cold water is that somebody falls through the ice or something like that? That's one.
We have two. So we went for swift water equipment last year. So that's fast moving water. Like
Okay.
after, God forbid, a dam break, but you know, some of the rains we had recently, that
Yeah.
water starts to move, cars driving through it, or somebody slipping into the water. That's the swift water equipment, and some of the things that we bought last year are that, and then also the ice rescue suits, which we were on Mill Pond. Well, last month now, it was when it was cold out. They were in the ice at Mill Pond doing cold water rescuing for that. So they do both. They're dual purpose.
Did you get all the radios that you wanted? Because I seem to remember that being an issue.
We-
in past.
That has been, Russ and I have finally, we got the quotes. Well, the quotes are not officially in yet. The radios should be in this summer. So they are coming finally. That's been a challenge with the state because of the frequencies and all the checks and balances the state has with those and the multi-band. So it's been a process with the state, and they finally approved our radio template, and they are going out. They're getting quoted, and they're going to get put in for a PO very shortly. So
So
we
that
are
would
there.
be new frequencies and more better coverage, or
Well, for us, those nothing changed with our frequencies. The issue we're having on the fire side is we're going mutual aid, and we rely on them coming here, but we go into their towns and we don't have communications with them. So our firefighters were in Wilton a couple weeks ago, and they're basically, I have to go, or my assistant chief has to go, to be outside to listen to our members' radio transmission out from the inside of the building, so I can tell the incident commander next to me and say, hey, our New Canaan guys are reporting that they're getting low on air. They need to come out. Otherwise, they have no communications with the incident commander because of different frequencies. The
So-
radios that we've been advocating for, we're able to talk on everybody's frequency.
oh, I got it. So our frequencies stay the same, but we can then at least listen to everybody
And
else's.
I don't want to fear anybody. Our frequency, anyone coming into our town can talk to us,
Right.
because our system is pretty basic. That Wilton,
Got it.
Norwalk, Stanford, all went to the state system, which changed their frequencies. So when we go to them, we have a lack of communications right now. So that's what we're trying to fill that gap and keep our members safe when they go out of town.
So our radios would then be able to speak on their frequencies, which they haven't been able
Correct.
to.
And
Got it.
our radios are only it's only the on-duty staff. 99.9% of the time, those are the only members going out of town. Our volunteers backfill to our town. So we don't need to get those radios for everybody. They're only going to be for the on-duty shift.
Got it.
So yeah,
So
we're
when would
buying.
they, when would you expect they'd be in service?
I'm hoping by summer, end of summer, you
Got
know, yeah. So as soon as, the company could get them squared away and get them to us, we're hoping for that. But I have I don't want to say it on recorded line. The radio companies are overwhelmed right now. I'll leave it at that, with the amount of radio stuff going on in the state. So that's it. That's our presentation, the radios, and here's my 5-year plan, just to give you a heads up of what we're looking at. The 20.
Yeah, I thought this year looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty lean. I mean, we're doing good. I can't speak enough to the shifts. The firefighters doing a great job of maintenance in what we have. We have that records management system's doing a great job of just documenting everything now. So stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. So it's very good on how we're doing that. I mean, our big stuff you'll see next year I have, which actually is already gone up, the SCBA replacement. Greg Riley and I are working on assistance to firefighters grant and keeping our fingers crossed that we can plead our case to the powers to be at the Fed level and the evaluators to say, yeah, we deserve a grant. So that would basically, our number goes down to 10% of that. So if we get the federal grant, which is what we're shooting for, but our packs are coming, our SCBA is coming up on 20 years old. They're past due to get replacement. We're starting to get a lot of failures.
How many of those would there be for the 410?
We have, that is a quote for 34 SCBA. So that's the budget quote for
all of them,
Great.
right? Is that to replace all of them? Okay.
Yeah, replace, you gotta do them all. Yeah, we may or may not need cylinders, but that's where we are. They're roughly about 9,000 per pack with everything you have to do now on them. So, but they're a 15 to 20 year investment. So, and you can see our couple of our big rigs are coming up for we look at refurb or replacement, 28, 29 budgets for the ladder and the tanker truck. So once we get our current truck out to be bid and that starts, we're gonna start looking hard at what's our best plan for these pieces of apparatus to replace them or really start to look at a refurb, which means keep our truck, but just doing a major overhaul on them. And extrication equipment is another big item on there. That's coming up. Just years of service. So recommended replacement.
Where's that?
Down the bottom, Halmatro replacement.
Oh, okay.
So we're trying to switch over to battery tools, which is a expense, but at the same time saves us a lot on with the apparatus and stuff with generators and stuff that we really don't need on the apparatus anymore. We won't have to spec on the apparatus because we're going to a battery operated tools that could cut the new cars. That's where we're starting to get into a challenge with our current set. As the cars come out with stronger metals, that's where we're having some challenges. So we're starting to get limited on what those tools can do.
Since you don't have the staff vehicle for the assistant chief, you've taken it totally out. You didn't push it back a year. You assume you're not going to have assistant chief vehicle for.
Well,
ever?
I didn't. I honestly, besides taking out the 24, 25 number there,
Yeah.
I did not. I didn't change anything moving forward in 26. So I didn't change from 26 to the end. So depending on that, on the decision on that position would determine whether I need staff vehicle or not. And but that can easily get put back in. I also got that pickup coming up. So our utility truck's going to be, so I didn't want to start messing around with all that. Just to keep the plan as I initially gave it to the budget director, except for what I removed out for this year.
Okay. So
That's
okay,
it.
yeah. Now, if you do get an assistant chief, do you absolutely need the staff vehicle as well right away, or can you?
That's something I didn't have time. He definitely needs a vehicle to respond.
Right.
We haven't looked at what's available in motor pool yet, which I was asked to do, and I just haven't had time to see if anything in the short term was available. So that position will definitely need a response vehicle coming from home. That'll definitely be a need down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can very easily, I was talking to, before we started, what's our real number? We could look at some of the stuff that has to go into that, and do it in maybe different years. As far as the lighting package is going to be a need. We need a radio for that position, for that car, but we possibly can hold off on the mobile and just buy the portable. So we got some options we'll re-look at. So to give you, police cars coming in at 47,000 before they equip it. So a Ford, I think it was a Tahoe, they priced Tahoes. They were coming in on state bid for 47,000 with nothing in it. So we still have to put some light package in it and some type of communications.
Okay, thanks.
And that should be the last slide. It is. So that's where we are right now.
Well, thank you. This is helpful going into the meeting to have a preview of it. And
And if you, I mean, I'll take feedback. Doesn't have to be right now, but what you want. I mean, where do you want me to spend time on next Thursday? You know, that's like, I don't. I mean,
I think going through your story, like what you guys do, I think,
Mhm.
you know, most of the other departments, I'll say Board of Education does a great job with this. They kind of tell what their value add is to the
Right.
town. They start with the value add of this is what you've been doing. These are the things that you've made an impact to the town. It kind of sets the stage for your goals, your vision. And then your budget and your capital plan is in order for you to continue to achieve your goals and your vision for how you serve the town, you know, this is why you need it. So that's what I would do. I don't know.
I agree with that. You know, the number of calls and you know the all the good deeds.
Right.
It softens folks up too.
Yeah.
Like Michael.
Nice, thank
I
you.
can add that. Not a problem. So
Yeah. I've been softened up already. I've heard the speech. And
Yeah,
I'm
I'm just
a big
giving you
believer,
grief.
so.
I'm just giving you grief.
I mean, I mean, I like selling the pub ed stuff too. I mean, we didn't do 100 this year, but we were at 83, I believe, of pub ed events, and you know, that's where the big savings is, because if I can reduce that, if we can reduce that, you know, that impact on fire loss, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge.
So.
Well, getting that rating is big too.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we're still working on that. No insurance company tells me, well, how much does the house really save? You know, so I think they like to keep their cards close. You know, so but yeah,
Right.
those are that's on my hit list. Those are things on the hit list to really dig into since we got the rating about 2 months ago. You know, and that's I want to sit down with the person who did our research to find out where we can improve for next time, and is it worth investing time and money into those areas to try to reduce it even more, and how much does it really affect a 15,000 square residential, you know? So, you know, those are answers that we don't have directly yet. We're still trying to get those.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Go ahead, Colin.
Very helpful. No, I was going to say thank you very much. It's really been good. It is a tough budget year, so you know.
We heard. Yep.
So you know, we'll try to convey the points, but it's a tough year all around.
Understood. Yeah. As Beth just said, she hasn't seen one that hasn't been. So, so we get it. We understand. You know, we just try. We try to keep it lean, and getting it done. So that's never a problem. We're always going to get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, but Chief, I think you should highlight the things you've done and how you provide, you know, safety. I mean, at the end of the day, New Canaan is about schools and safety, in my view. And why people pick New Canaan.
Understood.
You should highlight, you know, what you've done and how you can continue to do it at a high bar level, and you know, what you need in what kind of resource you need in order to continue to do it at a high bar level.
All right. Sounds good. Anything
Good
else?
stuff. No, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. We know you have to get going.
Yep. Thank you
So
very
much.
much.
All right.
Cheers. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Remember to stop the recording.
Yes. What do you think, Paul? Hold on. Wait.